Welcome to the Everyday Millionaire Show with Ryan Greenberg and Nick Kalkas.
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Everyday Millionaire Show. We're here with Matthew Cox, coming in from New York. How you doing, Matt?
I am good. It's great to be here, guys.
Yeah,
thanks for coming.
Chase?
Not too much difference in weather here in New York, huh?
No, it's a little warmer. It was negative 20 in New York the other day, so
I was there.
It feels a little balmy in Baltimore today, actually.
Wow, that's insane.
Definitely looking forward to warmer weather. But I just came back from Florida, so it was 75 and sunny
Yeah, you
there.
just flew in today, didn't you?
Yeah,
Where'd you go down there for?
just a Super Bowl party.
Were you looking at properties down there?
Not this time. I mean, but I was just browsing. I was in
Okay.
Fort Lauderdale this time,
Okay.
but nothing to buy.
Got you one of your rich friends to a party or something?
No, just a friend.
You weren't at Grant Cardone's house.
No, I can't say who it was.
10X
Yeah.
party.
Somehow this guy sneaks into every place that he probably shouldn't be.
Those are the buddies you need to have. I'm not that guy, so it's
Yeah,
good
me-
to surround
me
yourself with
either.
guys who know how to get into the cool parties.
Yeah,
Yep.
me
It's
either.
always a good time.
Yeah, I was up in New York on Saturday, and Sunday we woke up and it was like I looked at my phone and it just said 1 degree with the wind chills, like negative. It was absolutely brutal walking around Saturday. Like I had long johns on, jeans on, like a winter ski coat, a mask, and I was still cold up there.
Yeah, there's no defense for it. You're just freezing if you go outside.
Yeah. So, God bless you for living up there, man. I escaped. So you live in Manhattan proper.
I do. I'm Upper West Side. I'm Manhattan proper. Yep.
And I'm really interested about this because I feel like when I came down here and I started my real estate business, looking back at New York, Long Island specifically where I'm from, like there would have been no opportunity for me there to invest because it's like so expensive to get started. Like for example, my first houses, a lot of the houses that Nick buys, they were like $100,000, 150 grand. New York, you get like a little box for $500,000. So how do you give us a little bit of a rundown of your investment style in New York?
So to be clear, I live in New York. I do not invest in New York. And
okay.
I mean, and to your point, $500K for a box is generous. Try $1 million for a box in Manhattan. But no, I moved to New York about 4.5 years ago. I invest exclusively in Oregon, which is where I'm from, which is not a cheap market, but it's nothing resembling New York.
Yeah, Bend, Oregon's one of my favorite cities.
Great place
in the country.
Oh yeah,
not city. I wouldn't call it city, town, whatever.
It kind of is now. When I was a little kid, it was like this tiny little ski town. It's got like 100 and something thousand people now, which feels enormous for what we were used to out there.
I don't know if you guys have ever been to Bend, but it's one of the places that you can actually go in the summertime and mountain bike in the morning or ski in the morning and mountain bike in the afternoon. It's like really, really cool. Like it's like a high desert.
High desert, yeah.
So you go like in the town of Bend, not to get too deep in this rabbit hole, but I love this place so much. The town of Bend will get like, I don't know, 15 inches of precipitation a year. And then you can ride your bike up the mountain, 13 miles, and that'll get like 300 inches of snow every year. And it's like up in the it's a cool place.
It's beautiful. My parents they don't live in Bend. It's called Eagle Crest. It's like 25 minutes from Bend.
I played a golf course in Eagle Crest.
Oh yeah, beautiful course.
Yeah.
I'm not a golfer myself, but I have played it. But they just moved over to Eagle Crest after living in Salem over in the valley for like 30 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a gorgeous part of the country.
So Nick
I'm
and-
always super jealous of, sorry to cut you off.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
always super jealous of agents that sell in like these awesome areas like Bend. I do follow an agent that is just in Bend, and like how much easier is it to sell a house when the freaking views are incredible, and you get like 8 to 10 acres on a house. Like here we get nothing.
The thing with Bend that I've learned when I was out there, a lot of people were, I guess, and you can answer this, if you do short-term rentals at all?
So it's funny. I own one piece of real estate that's not in Oregon, and that is my short-term rent, my Airbnb, which is by Lambeau Field in Green Bay, Wisconsin. I'm a huge Packer fan, and I'll go out there and use it, and then I'll rent it out. But that is my only short-term rental.
When I was out there the last time, so we went out there a couple of years in a row for a mountain bike race. My sister-in-law and brother-in-law were in, And one of the neighbors that we met at the Airbnb that we were staying at was one of like the only residents on the block that actually lived there. Every other house was an Airbnb.
Oh yeah,
Like,
in Bend, they've been cracking down on it though. It's because like much of the country, the locals just they don't like the ski people coming in to ski and party and then they leave and But on the in their defense, the town has gone crazy, and so the people that have owned there have just experienced incredible amounts of appreciation in their properties.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, some of the houses that we've rented are thousands of dollars a night, and they're like sick, like just balls to the walls, like fully renovated, like custom kitchens, you name it. It's a cool place. So what's your strategy on how you invest across the country, and how do you manage all that? Do you have like a property management team in place, or do you do that yourself? Like what's your deal there?
Yeah, I was telling Nick a little bit of this on the ride over. By the way, shout out to Nick. I took the train into the wrong train station getting here. Bad. I just went to Baltimore proper and ended up like 45 minutes from where the studio is. So thank you, Nick, for that. But to answer your question, so I moved to New York about 4.5 years ago. I'd already started building my portfolio when I was in Oregon. And I started off buying single family homes, kind of duplexes, slowly building it. And my first instinct when I was going to move to New York was like, I have to sell all this stuff. And so I thought about it. And then I was like, you know what? I don't really go by my properties very often anyway. Like, I'm not a handyman type. I don't know how to fix a faucet. It's not my skill set. So what I would do anyways, I would call somebody and they would go fix it. And I just kind of thought to myself, I'd like to hold these properties. And frankly, not that much changes being in New York versus being in Oregon. So, I mean, when I was out there, I was a solopreneur. Like, I was doing all this, handling all the tenant stuff, putting people in leases, making the maintenance calls. And so what it forced me to do is I had to build a business. I couldn't just like hustle around and figure it out on the fly. So I started building out systems. We document every single thing. If X, then Y. So if tenant calls about this, here's what we do. Here's how you put somebody in a lease. Here's how you do a walkthrough. And so then I started hiring. I hired my first virtual assistant in 2023. I left corporate in 2023, coincidentally as well. And so from that, just as we've scaled, I've built that out. We've got a few virtual assistants now that handle the property management. And then we can get into this if you like. But as we started doing larger deals and buying apartment complexes, I've actually started outsourcing some of that to third-party management as well.
So what did that look like before you hired the VA? So you've moved 4.5 years ago in 2023. You hired your VA, so you were probably living in New York for at least a year and a half before hiring the VA. What was that transition like from you being in Oregon to moving to New York and managing your portfolio?
Yeah, it's a shit show. We can cuss on here.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And a lot of people go through this phase, and I feel like everybody tells you like start running it like a business from day one. Like don't be a hustler. Don't be that's
an easy thing to say.
Everyone tells you to do it. You don't figure out that you have to do it until you literally hit such a pain point that you want to quit real estate. And so when I first moved to New York, like I had an Excel sheet that I was tracking rents in, and I was collecting rents on Venmo. So like a Venmo payment would come in and I'd like check it off and then, you slowly, and I got to the amount of scale, right, where I have enough doors that maintenance request, you own a couple houses, you're getting a maintenance request every few weeks maybe. And then all of a sudden you're scaling, and maintenance stuff is just, today, like, I'll go look at my phone after this and we'll probably have two maintenance requests in the time to record this podcast. So you start hiring. We got a tenant portal. That sounds like the simplest thing ever. For $200 a month, we got a tenant portal. It tracks all of our rents, maintenance requests, all of that kind of stuff. You start hiring quality people. I read, I don't know if you guys have read Dan Martell's Buy Back Your Time.
Yep.
The book, yeah, great book. I read a ton of history and nonfiction and stuff. I don't read a ton of business books, but that one absolutely changed it sounds like hyperbole. It kind of changed my life, because I was like, I was borderline ready to just be like, let's sell all these things and be done with this. And the second I finished it, I hired somebody, and it started really building a business instead of just this hustle where Matt's running around taking phone calls, trying to figure out everything on the fly.
So had you sold, what do you think your plan would have been if you did sell? Would you go into a different business, or would you try to build something in New York?
Hard to say. I might still be in corporate, honestly, because this was happening. This was 2023, and I was hitting that point where it was a level of scale that was either figure this out and keep doing it long term as a business, or crumble under this. And I was still at corporate. I was in my sales job, and if I had just sold everything, I might still just be working that sales job today.
Something we ask all of our guests that come on here is, from your first property, how did you go about getting that first property? And then when you moved to New York, how many properties did you have at that time? And then when did you increase your scale? Yeah,
so my path went something like this. I bought my first rental property in 2018. I was working at a real estate investment company. I bought it. It was so my company I worked at, we bought foreclosures. And so I had, in hindsight, I should have been buying like a ton of properties because I had access to all these crazy deals. But at that time it was, and maybe you guys, I'm sure a lot of your listeners can relate, when you first start learning real estate or you first hear about it, you're kind of just like, oh, that's like a thing. My boss, he does that. He's like the super rich guy. Like, I don't get to buy real estate. And so, I ended up buying one because he kind of, to his credit, he would kind of be like, Matt, like, you should be picking up some of these. And I kind of bought one, and I was like, okay, cool. I'll tuck this thing away. It'll be great in 20 years for my retirement. No aims of doing this as a scalable business or anything like that. And then so that was 2018. I also bought my personal residence, a townhouse in Portland, while I was there. But then, so I was at my next job in 2020. I was selling, that was the corporate sales job. I was selling aviation data to airports in the US and Canada. And COVID hit, and I was like, shit, like, none of my customers want to talk to me. The airports are like in survival mode. They're not making any money. Nobody's buying anything from me. They don't even want to talk to me. And so I got nothing but free time. And I also know I'm going to make no commissions for the foreseeable future. So like, I got all this free time. A lot of my friends are doing like Netflix and video games. I'm like, dude, I got to figure out a way to make some more money. And so I started, listening to Bigger Pockets like crazy, reading books, but then I just started buying deals. And that's anybody that people hit me up sometimes wanting to, I don't know if you guys use LinkedIn, but people want to pick my brain or whatever. And that's always my first piece of advice is like, read the books, do the education, but start buying deals. And so I bought another deal in like May of 2020. I just started scaling like crazy from that point. I bought everything I could get my hands on. I would do the BRRRR method, get my money back out of it, buy another property. And I just kept repeating that, and slowly built a portfolio. I think by the time I moved to New York, I had probably 15 doors, 12, 15 doors, something like that. And then when I got to New York, I've scaled it much more quickly than when I was living in Oregon. And that's normal. Your portfolio, I talk to guys that have been doing this for 30 years. It's usually hockey stick because you start building the portfolio. You got some equity. You can pull that equity. You can buy more. But yeah, that's kind of how we got here.
That's that's the typical story. I feel like the hockey stick method. It's like once you figure it out, and I think that's the biggest thing too. Like I do some coaching for a guy that for 5 years was just listening to podcasts, reading books, listening to books, doing whatever education he could do, and just never pulled the trigger. And then hired me to basically coach him through a deal. Within 30 days, he had his first deal. It's cash flowing, and I own a property management company, and I was like, I suggest you manage this property with my help. Like I'm on a monthly retainer with him, so like every week we meet. And this week we're going back and forth with his tenant. He had his first like big like service call, and the lady doesn't even. This is the craziest thing. The lady, the Section 8 pays 100% of her rent. There was a leak, a gas leak. We got it fixed the same day. The only thing that was wrong was that there was a patch they had to cut a patch to run the new gas line. The lady's now asking for like temporary accommodations and like money, and we're like, you don't really get that when first you don't pay your rent. Second of all, like there was no like uninhabitable time. So I'm teaching him all that because he's just letting this lady just like run all over. I'm like, no, you tell her we're gonna be there in 24 hours to fix the cosmetic stuff. All the safety hazards are done. And then she found there was a leak in like the water heater. So she then again requested like accommodations, and we're like, no. And I had to like tell, because he's like trying to be a nice guy. And
yeah,
I'm
it's
like,
intimidating when you have your first property and you're trying to deal with these tenants.
yeah.
I mean, I would say soft in the beginning. Like I would say yes to almost everything and try to like be, I would be a good person, but like they were trying to like bend me over, and I'm like, nowadays it's like it can't happen that way.
That's one of our, when I'm training my VAs who run the property management now, that's one of the hardest things to train them on is like your job is to give them a safe place to live, and their job is to pay rents. You're not their therapist. You're not there to book hotels for them. You're not there, your job is to take care of maintenance requests because and I want to be clear, there's a ton of awesome tenants, but there are a lot, we call them professional tenants, and they will take exactly what you allow them to get.
You could tell by the way that they word their texts or emails exactly. Like the first email, when he sent me the screenshot of it, I was like, all right, well, she's using the language, we're going to use the same language. Like, this is in your lease, section 4, blah, blah, blah. Like, 24 hours notice. She was like, well, nobody notified me 24 hours that they were coming for the gas leak. I'm like, well, that's an emergency. Look at this section in your, like, all of that language. You just gotta, that's another thing when you're scaling, you have to document and have all of that stuff in place, because these tenants will and can take you to court. And especially here, I don't know how Oregon is, but I know New York's the same. It's tenant friendly.
Oh yeah, it
not
is Oregon,
landlord friendly. So when you go there, if you don't have all your ducks in a row, it's always going to go to the tenant. It sucks.
I wonder how AI is going to affect the way tenants talk to landlords, right? So like, for example, that tenant could put their lease into chat and say, hey, this is my problem. Can you pull out any loopholes?
Oh, she's using AI.
Loopholes,
yeah. Right. So like, how many more professional tenants are there going to be now because of AI and pulling out?
But we could do it the opposite way too, though.
Right,
yeah, I would say that she's probably using AI to communicate, but that's a step forward. I never thought about them inputting the whole entire lease in there and figuring out a way, like asking chat, like, hey, how can we screw my landlord over?
I mean, dude, it's scary because we're using, like, I'm developing an app right now that checks contracts for agents. So that way you can upload the contract to this portal, and it'll use AI to look over the whole contract, pull out any red flags that it sees, any missing spots where there's supposed to be signatures and stuff like that. Like, I was just thinking about that. I was like, man, if you're a professional tenant, you just upload the lease agreement and ask it, hey, where are the loopholes at? This is my situation. Like, we had a gas leak. How much could I screw my tenant or my landlord over?
I had a guy do that was buying a house for me. I was selling. He was my tenant, and he's buying one of my single family homes, and he uploaded the entire thing to AI, and he sent me this like laundry list of questions. I was like, dude, I'm not your attorney. Like, I'm not going to answer these for you. A, it's not my job, and B, if I come off as giving you legal advice, I know you're gonna, so go take this to an attorney. But he uploaded the entire thing and spit out like 30 questions for me on it.
Yeah, I would have just uploaded it back to ChatGPT and like, just answer these questions and make sure it's not legal advice.
Just let the chats talk back and forth to each other. Like,
I've seen videos of that where like a husband and a wife or like the two friends are sitting next to each other, and they're like, I think it was a clip on South Park that I saw that they're like communicating through, like sitting next to each other in person, but using chat to talk to each other. So like forming conversations, just be like, tell them this, and then that person says it. AI is definitely a wild place. Like it is, I think, changing the whole like platform. One of my virtual assistants, Carl, who will edit this podcast, is really good at using AI, and Juris is actually, I think she's good. So
she's good, yeah.
I took a VA from Chase when he didn't need her anymore, and I took her in, for the property management company, and she's actually really good. And I'm like telling these people, I'm like, you have to, if we're not using it, we are behind. Like we are going to be left behind. We could be cutting costs. We could be cutting time. we need to be using anything and everything that's available within reason. I think like with that app we talked about the other day, like I think there's some liability that needs to be figured out, like with AI, and disclosures is obviously the way with like with what you're doing, but like it's a little scary what could come of AI. Like, how are you using it in your business?
Probably not enough, to be honest. I mean, I use it constantly for like content writing and stuff. So I'll write whatever I'm going to post on LinkedIn, and then I'll write it from my own thinking, and then I'll plug it in there and be like, hey, does this help me make this sound more succinct or make more people interact with it? So I'll use it for content. I train my VAs on it a lot, actually, just for tenant communications, because a lot of them, English is not their first language. So I'm literally coaching them on like, plug in what the tenant just said to you and say, please craft me a response that sounds stern but also friendly and gets my point and just let it spit out, because they communicate a lot via text, and so I coach them on how to do things like that. But there's people, I mean, there's this one guy, he's a huge investor, and he's doing things with AI where he's basically building, like, he has a staff, he's creating AI agents, and he almost has like a whole, like, they're basically employees, and they're all interacting with each other. I mean, that's the next level that I am. I'm not there yet. I don't know about you guys.
So one thing that I'm doing, if you're like, because I own a construction company, basically I'm like vertically integrated from construction, property management. We're doing everything from new constructions to custom kitchens for homeowners, and I could take a blueprint and I can upload it to ChatGPT. And over the last, year or so since I've been using it, I've been feeding Chat my costs of things. So like what I charge LVP, $6 plus $2, for profit or whatever. So it's like $8 a square foot. Baseboards, if it's craftsman, I'm charging X amount. If it's this, I'm charging X amount. Shoe molding, I can now upload the drawing to Chat and say, make me a material list and cost of each and every item, from kitchens to baseboards to flooring, and it will sit there and it'll calculate everything and tell me my exact cost, and then I can take it and put it into my estimating software and then send it out to the client. Or like if we're doing a new build, we can just put it in there and I'll know exactly how many linear feet of baseboard, how many square feet of floors, how many sheets of drywall. It'll do cubic feet. I mean, it does everything. It counts. I tell it, when we're doing recessed lights, they should be about 4.5 feet apart. So it'll take the length of the room and say, okay, you need 18 recessed lights. It's unbelievable once you learn how to, like, I've been just feeding it the information. I think you have to like train it, right? It's like one of those things that it's like an actually like a learning, like almost like a living thing. You're feeding it the information. It's a living thing that perfectly remembers everything you tell it. And then it just, once you train it, like, it has cut my estimating time, which has been like my biggest time suck, in like 25, like by 75%, I would say.
I saw one the other day. I haven't used it yet, but this guy, my fiance's brother, told me about it, because we're raising money for a lot of our deals, and it's an AI, it's a video call you get on with AI, and it like grills you on the deal as if it's on the other end as an LP that's looking at investing in your deal. So you pitch to them, and it gives you, asks you the hard questions back, and it like prepares you for investor calls. It's pretty crazy.
Sounds pretty nice.
We need that for my real estate team, so I can just throw them on there and they can role play with prospective buyers and sellers. Like, that's.
So do you want to talk a little bit about how you transitioned from the single family space and how you got into the multifamily?
Yeah. So I started off, like I told you, doing BRRRR deals, single family. That was back when rates were 3.5%. So you could just, the numbers worked, even in, Oregon's a fairly expensive market, but you could cash flow single family homes. And then, I kind of progressed, probably a standard path to a lot of people, started buying duplexes. Then I bought small-plex, 4-plex, 6-plex. And then I started kind of just building a little bit of a name for myself, a little bit of a reputation, just posting on social media, having a podcast, having a blog. And it sort of naturally came about where, like, I had one guy in particular who's my biggest investor who just read something I wrote and hit me up like, hey, if you're ever looking to kind of scale this thing more quickly, I'd be interested. And it wasn't even like, it wasn't even like a thought where like, okay, now I have to do larger deals. But then, he talked, and so I started just underwriting larger deals, learning how to structure a syndication or a JV agreement, how to raise capital. And I just kind of did it on the fly. I mean, 2025 was, so I should backtrack. Before that, when I was doing the small-plex stuff, I'd bring in like one strategic partner or so. Like I would do deals with my brother, or maybe my parents would partner with me on a deal. And then in 25, I started talking to investors and just learning the lay of the land. Because when you get into those, larger apartments where you're raising from, a handful of investors as opposed to just, one guy or gal who wants to throw money in the deal. And a lot of 25 was like I was banging my head against the wall. A lot of it felt like, and I learned so much. And then we started late in the year. We put a couple deals together. We did a 10 unit, and then 2 weeks ago we closed on a 19 unit. Today we offered on 22 unit and a 33 unit. So we finally we're not there yet, but we've sort of started building this machine around capital raising and knowing how to structure these deals, having the right lenders, having the right loan broker. Like I said, having the capital relationships, having the broker relationships where people are starting to bring me deals now instead of having to go find them. So it's a totally different game when you're raising money. I mean, it's, using other people's capital is no joke. Like there's always risk involved, but you do not want to do something reckless with somebody. It's one thing to do something reckless with your own money. With somebody else's money, that is like, I mean, you got to take that more serious than your own money 100 times over.
And that space that you're in, the 10 to, let's just call it like 60 units, is a really hard multifamily space, because I've learned this the hard way by just competing on deals with bigger companies and losing out throughout the years. And I've stayed in my kind of lane now, but when you don't have like 70 plus units, you can't really create like an ecosystem. When you have 70 units under one roof, you can have a full-time leasing agent in-house. You can have a full-time maintenance person in-house. When you have like 10 units, that doesn't support full-time staff on site. So that's a hard space to manage in the 10 unit range. And then you have, with multifamilies and commercial loans, you have balloon payments and refinances to worry about. So like, I feel like 25 was a good year to start, because you're starting high with high rates, but your NOI is what tells you the value of the property. So like we were talking last week with Jeff Ervik about this, like if you were to buy the same deal in 21 and then in 25 or whatever, you had to start your refi because it's a 5-year balloon, you'd be getting a capital call like a son of a bitch. Like you'd be in the red on that refi. Oh yeah, it's happening all over. You look at the Sun Belt right now, people are blowing up, and a lot of people, and it's not because they're stupid or because they, it's just, I mean, some of them were probably a little bit reckless with money, but it's timing. I mean, I think a lot of people honestly had their experience was with 30-year debt, and They were not like, wait, hold on, I have to pay this back in 5 years, and that's what's happening right now. And you lock in at 3%, you stretch your numbers, you make your underwriting work to try to get the deal done, and you can't refi that at 6%, 6.5% now. Yeah, that's why I had one deal that I was offering on a couple years ago, and I'm so happy that we didn't get it. We ended up losing it by like a lot of money, and I underwrote it, and this company came in and bought it for like $500,000 more, and it was like between 20 and 25 units mixed use. It was a couple commercial units on the basement ground level, and then apartments above it. And had I bought that, I hadn't done the math, I should do the math. Had I bought that back then, because it was when rates were like insanely low. I mean, my private hard money at the time was 6%, no points. So like rates were at like the all-time low. I would be losing my ass right now. Because it was exactly the time when the rates were the lowest. And in my underwriting, I was luckily it was a big renovation project too. So I was like pretty conservative with it and didn't end up getting it. But had I gotten it and not found the value add between 2020 and now, I would have been fucked, like big time. It's a common story. I mean, I have buddies that they're
they tell me these stories like, man, I am so glad that guy outbid me on that deal. Because you know, hindsight's always 20/20, but you see these markets like Denver was trading at 3 caps, like Texas, Austin, Texas is the poster child, right? Rents are down like 20% there. That market's getting wiped out right now. And it, you know, it's when you look back, it feels like it was nonsensical, but when everybody's out there and, you know, the punch bowl's at the table and everybody thinks it's going to go on forever, it's very easy to start getting loose with your numbers.
Yeah, I think it's super important to be strong, and like the underwriting is so important, especially in that space. Like with the single family space, I can underwrite a deal in 10 minutes and know the worst case scenario for 30 years. In a multifamily space, there's so many factors between the rates going up and your rents going down. You could be upside down in no time. And that's something that I like warn people about that are like new to investing and they're trying to get in just like straight into becoming a syndicator. I'm like, you need to figure out you need to figure some stuff out first before you could just go syndicating stuff, because it is a very dangerous game and it could go really, really wrong. And like you said, like I use other people's money for stuff and I take that really seriously. And as like a property manager, I tell my staff this all the time. Like, we are managing the biggest asset of these people's that they own. Like some of these people that we manage for, they own like one extra house. You know, it's like they had their house and their wife had their house and they moved into one, and now this is their biggest asset, their biggest holding. Like, we need to take this like as seriously as we can. And if you don't and you lose somebody else's money, it feels different than losing the bank's money. I've never lost any investors' money. I should say that as a disclosure. I've always paid back. I've lost money, but I've never lost an investor money. But I know people that have, and it's not a good look. It's not a good look.
Yeah, if you have a conscience, it feels horrible. There's a lot of people out there raising money who don't have consciences, and they're the types, they'll go turn and burn investors. They'll go to a new market where nobody knows them and they'll raise again. But it's a very serious deal. And that's not to say I've never lost investor money. It doesn't mean I never will. But what I can say is I will never lose investor money because I do something sketchy or do something reckless with somebody else's money. There's always risk involved. You can lose money, but you better not lose it because you did something reckless with somebody else's dime.
Yeah, so funny story. This office, I own this office and the one next door. The commercial broker who sold me this 2 units here wanted to get into, he was a commercial broker, made very good money. He's an older guy, wanted to break into the hard money space. He texted me about a specific guy. Well, you guys will know him. I'm not going to say his name, but he texted me and said, "Hey, this guy wants me to lend him on these deals. Do you know him?" And I said, "Yes. I would recommend you don't loan to him. I know what he's doing." And they're chasing these, they have appraisers in their pockets and they're getting these crazy appraisals done. And it was part of that whole New York. Have you heard of the New York investors scandal that happened here in Baltimore?
No.
So there's a huge DSCR scandal that happened. And basically what was happening was there was a group of investors in New York that were buying properties, selling them to out-of-state investors at inflated values by basically having the appraisals done based on pictures of other properties that weren't renovated, and it was really, really sketchy. This guy was involved with it somehow, and the broker who just came to me the other day, and he's like, "Hey, can you manage or sell these 4 units for me? I had to take them back." And he didn't tell me who he did. And I said, Was it the guy that I warned you about like a couple months ago? He said, "Yeah, I have to admit, unfortunately, it was him."
So you told him not to lend to him, and he still did?
Yep.
Oh my!
I told him, I said, "I know this is different than New York. Baltimore is a very small city. If you are a real estate investor here, we call it small-timore. Like, it is a very small city. If you're a real estate investor here and you do anything in our space, everybody knows everybody. Like, when we have a quarterly event that we have to plan soon, by the way. There's 200 people there that basically run the whole real estate investment in Baltimore. Like, it's like there's not that many of us. Whereas the city, New York, like New York's different. You can get away with like sliding by and not knowing people. But here it's not like that. You know everybody. And I know all their tricks and all their schemes. I've either done contracting work for them. I know somebody that's done contracting work. I know their property manager. Somehow we all know each other. And I knew this guy was doing what he was doing and getting appraisals, but from a company. And when he went to this guy for hard money, I was like, that doesn't make sense, because he had a relationship with this other very well-known hard money company, and then they wouldn't give him money anymore. Mm-hmm. So that to me was red flag number one. And anyway, yeah, so he lost 4 houses, and now he's fire selling them at auction and losing a good chunk of change doing it. Jeez. So there was like 700 properties that was caught up. What is it, like 700?
Yeah, about 700-800 properties
that was
throughout
caught
Baltimore.
up in this scandal of these New York investors that were basically buying deals, selling them to out-of-state investors that never saw the property. Was saying the appraisal would have an appraisal for, let's just say, $225,000. On the market, the house would sell for $140,000.
Oh my gosh!
So
and people were buying
them at 75%.
Yeah,
thinking they were getting a fucking steal, and instead they were actually getting stolen from. And then that guy, those, non-recourse loans, basically just, all that money just disappeared, and now there's just a bunch of foreclosures everywhere.
Yeah, he's like, whatever. Like,
right. I already got mine. He already got his, Like, so it is it really changed the whole investment space. Like, all of the appraisers, there's appraisers that got all caught up in this, and now, like, I'm refinancing 8 of my properties right now to buy a big duplex. And like a very high-end, I shouldn't say big duplex because it sounds like kind of oxymoron, but it's an expensive piece of real estate. And we can talk about that too. It's those other 2 deals that you told me to sell that I own the other 2 with this guy. And I'm buying the other 2 now. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, look at the numbers. Make sure it makes sense first.
Yeah, it's too late now.
I'm the underwriter on that deal.
Too late now. I already signed an LOI for over $1 million. I broke the chair. God damn, Nick's got to start losing some weight.
Jesus.
Carl's going to have to do some editing.
Coming off that Super Bowl party, too many nachos and wings.
That buffalo chicken did really sitting on
This
you.
is good. This is great content here.
Use the table.
This is what the people come for.
Yeah. Oh, God. It's a budget podcast. We have budget chairs.
Nick, sit forward.
Now I lost my train of thought, but anyway, I'm wrapping up these properties into a refinance, and the appraiser told me that he got approached by some of these guys, and they were basically like offering him money to give them appraisals based on pictures, and like, hey, like, I know your appraisal fee is $595, but if I paid you $995, would you just do it based on our pictures? We're just doing this at scale, and we don't have the time to wait for you to get out there. And he didn't do it. Luckily, he didn't get caught. But there is a list of now blacklisted appraisers that are, I imagine, going to have some legal troubles.
And it made it harder for us to get these DSCR loans for quite some months because of all that going on. Everyone got scared. Everyone who was lending that product in Baltimore pulled back a little bit. But right now it's pretty.
All the institutional money that was lending on that product here basically disappeared. And then now it's easier. It's coming back now, but a lot of people got scared and a lot of people lost a lot of money, and it's just fraud, basically.
Yeah. Nobody's gonna accuse me of paying off an appraiser. Our duplex that closes tomorrow, the appraiser came in $45,000 below our contract price on it. I had to take the haircut on it.
So that's our appraisal on the 8 units that so basically my lender was like, what do you think the values are on this 8 units? Because I'm doing it in a portfolio loan. And I was super, super conservative. And he came in, it was like $300,000 more, the appraisal. And then when I went back to the lender, he was like, oh, well, it came in higher. You can get, well, I was like, well, what if I took a lower LTV? Can we get a better product, a better rate? And that's what I ended up doing. So instead of going with the 75%, I think we're at like 60% LTV and getting a better product. So being conservative is good when you're underwriting stuff like that. But
I don't know. So like, I want to talk about the buying multifamily in 2020. Like, how could you be conservative at that time when, you know, some of these loans are like 5-year loans and you're at the bottom of the market with the interest rates, and like, where do you expect them to go from there? You know what I mean?
You can't be conservative.
So-
You don't buy deals.
So
if
that
you're
you couldn't.
conservative.
So basically, you couldn't buy a deal if you analyze it to where in 5 years it might go up to 6%, because then there would be another buyer that would have already bought that
Those
deal.
people thought that the rates were
at a
just going
lower
to
price.
stay at 3% forever.
Yeah,
I think that's
But how
what the
could you
biggest
think
problem-
that? It's kind of like crazy for
I
someone.
think
to
the
think
hard part with it, like, it's easy to sit here like Monday morning quarterback and be like, well, you should have thought about. The truth is, no one. It was the fastest rate hiking cycle in history. Like, nobody is underwriting for interest rates to go up by 4%. Now, if you had underwritten for interest rates to go up by 2%, maybe when they go up 4%, it sucks, but it's not gonna wipe you out. And so I think that's where, if you were thinking they were gonna be 3 forever, you know, that's problematic. But the truth is, I mean, the people that were true conservative investors during that time and they just didn't buy deals, and that's horrible. If you're, you know, if you're a syndicator and you're living off of fees and you have to do deals to pay your bills, I mean, that's where, you know, you look at the incentives there. Like, if you are truly underwriting conservatively and the market is going that ape shit and everybody's overpaying, the reality is you're just not going to do deals. And so it's yeah, I mean, the smartest investors I know, or I don't know if they're the smartest, they were the guys who have enough cash flow and own enough property already that they didn't have to do deals in order to pay their bills.
Yeah, that's important.
So how are you right now? Like, we talked about it earlier about, you know, money is typically the biggest thing that sets people back when they buy their first deal. How are you now raising the amount of money you're raising? And like, what are some like strategic tactics that you guys use to like go find money and, you know, get people to invest in you?
Yeah, so I put some of my own money in every deal, but we have to, you know, we raise a large chunk of it as well. I mean, honestly, the number one pro tip I can give for raising capital is just be like on everything, like podcast, like what you guys are doing right here. Like, people know you from this, hosting events, be all over, be to the point you're like annoying on social media, honestly. Like, every deal you do should be on Facebook. It should be on Instagram. It should be on LinkedIn. You should be, I mean, so LinkedIn, that's the biggest one I discovered this year. I had LinkedIn for 10 years while I was in corporate. I never used it. Or like, if my boss told me I needed to post something, I'd post it. But I started like investing in LinkedIn. I post every day at 9 a.m. on LinkedIn. I've gotten inbound, and that's the people you want. Like, it's one thing you can go pitch friends and family, and you'll raise some money for sure. But the people you want are the inbound, because those are people. Most people at the end of the day, if they're not like your family, they don't really want to be pitched. They want to feel like they're deciding to work with you. And so I've started getting a lot more of that. I mean, much like you guys, I have a podcast. I have a weekly blog that I publish. But yeah, you just got to be out there and telling everybody about what you're doing and building expertise and sharing pro tips. Like, here's what I learned from my last deal. People want to feel like they're working with an expert at the end of the day.
Yeah. No, that good.
I think one of the things too, like you said, like sharing pro tips, I think that also includes, like, we've talked on this podcast about when I've lost my ass on deals and how I've done
Yes.
it. Where like a lot of investors, I feel like, have their high school highlight reel always, and they never tell you about how much they've lost. Like, we did a flip. I mean, just, what was that, 2 years ago that you sold, that I did, that I
Last year.
Nah.
I was thinking the
It was
end
2
of
years.
2024.
Yeah, it was at end of 2024. It was definitely 2024 because last year I didn't have this.
Oh, you're talking about your flip that you lost your butt on.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Delphi.
I thought you were talking about PG County where we lost 15K.
No. So I bought a deal from a friend that was a wholesaler, and I just didn't do my due diligence on the underwriting. It was just like the interior of this neighborhood would sell for 1.1. The outside is on a double yellow line. I was in my head I was appraising it just wrong, and ended up losing like, was it $90,000? Like real quick. Like, it was the quickest $90,000 that actually it took forever because it was like 6 months. It sat on the market for a while.
That's even worse. So
Yeah.
you'd rather just lose it quickly.
It was like a slow bleed,
Yeah.
and it was a big ticket. So like it was like it ended up selling in like the mid sixes, I think, somewhere.
Yeah.
So I had pretty high debt on it, you know, at 10% and whatever.
Well, those are the worst too, because you in your head you're appraising it high, or you're thinking that the value's high, and then you're sitting on the market and all the buyers are like, no, it's not there, and then you're trickling yourself down and you're just bleeding yourself out.
And that's me. I was 8 years into investing and like been doing deals, like been doing construction, and I lost my ass, and it was because of bad underwriting. And I put that out into the world, like not to do anything but show people like everybody is susceptible to losing money at some point. So like be careful and make sure you don't lose. Like at that point, losing 90,000, don't get me wrong, it hurt, but it didn't put me under. Whereas if that was my first deal that I ever did, that would have bankrupted us. If that was the 5th to 10th deal I've ever did, it would have bankrupted us at that point.
Yeah, that stuff's great to share. Like, here's what happened. Here's what I fucked up. Here's what I learned from it. I mean, there's LPs and investors out there who won't work with a GP who hasn't lost money. Because the most dangerous time in your investing career is when you're on the biggest heater and you start thinking you got the Midas touch with everything. I'm the man. I've hit 6 deals in a row. They're all just printing money. That is the absolute most dangerous time.
That was the script, actually, because that was the exact script. Because like that quarter, we had sold like, I forget the addresses now. I'll have to look back, but like that, I remember because you were selling some of them for me at the time.
I sold like 5 in a month.
I made like $250,000 in like a couple months.
Yeah,
like, just real
Cloud
quick.
9.
I was like, I could do this. Fucking, this is easy, you know. Like we had just did one, I think, together at the time. Did we do one together that we made a bunch on?
No, not yet.
Okay, so I did a couple. I don't even know what the address was, but I made a fucking boatload of money, and like I was just feeling myself. And he told me. Now he came to work for, like, not work for me, but like work under me to learn from me. Fresh out of the Air Force, fresh out of working for the government, and he fucking told me, don't buy this deal, and I'm like, I'm gonna buy this deal. And I bought that deal, and I lost my ass. And I have to live with that.
I'm glad you remember that.
Oh, I remember.
Yeah.
You can't forget losing 90,000 and having your protege tell you not to buy it, and you ended up buying it anyway. And that one, we took a bath on that one, and it was hard. That like you said, when you're on a high, it's so easy to just pull the trigger. The money's there. You know you can do. You know the construction. Like you think you know it all, and then boom, that happens, and it humbled you, and it humbles me. Still to this day, when I'm like underwriting deals, I think back to that one. I'm like, okay, what went wrong there? It was the double yellow line. Like that was it. Like the double yellow line ruined that deal.
It was a double yellow line, and it was on a hill, so there's no driveway to get in. So you had to go around to an alley and park in the back, or you parked on a main road and walked upstairs to your house. Where it's like, where are your guests gonna park? Where's your family gonna park? So
That's the thing with flips. Like I don't really flip houses anymore. But you quit. Like you learn how much your house is worth when you put it on the market. You run your comp, but it's so much different than multifamily because it's so about livability, meaning things like that. Like, oh wait, do I have to hike up, or there's nowhere to park on the street? Things like that you kind of, if you're running just like a cursory level comps, you're just like, okay, square footage, beds and baths, and that stuff shows up. I mean, I've done it. Like I had a flip where it was a 3-bedroom, for example, but the 3rd bedroom was like this shitty loft thing. And that's the stuff people care about when they go in there. And so all of a sudden you're underwriting against other, typical 3 bedrooms, and yours is not really being treated like a 3-bedroom to a buyer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we talked about this last week, but like multifamily is more like a business, right? Like you can come in and create it, make it a business and raise rents and, hit your target values. And you can't do that in the single family space. Brenton, I don't know if you guys just saw this, but Brenton just posted one. He has 2 flips coming in on the same neighborhood at the same time, and they're very similar houses. And he's like, I don't really know what to do here because it's like I'm gonna be pricing against myself,
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that's something you got to think about, and it's tough.
I think like what you said, and you've said this before, and it's ring true. And I've actually from a real estate agent's perspective, because I am an agent. I sell a handful of houses a year, just for clients that I do construction for and stuff. Most of the stuff I'm just referring to Chase and his people, but one of the things that Chase did that kind of changed my way of looking at the market and selling is pricing low and letting it run up rather than chasing the market down. And I've done that now with a couple of deals and actually had to like explain that strategy to that one house in Shipley's that ended up taking like a long time. This neighborhood that might happen to be the neighborhood I live in, these houses would sell in a day. If it's priced right, like it's gone in a day. This house sold and I explained to the clients like we're priced wrong, and they're like, no, this is the price. And I'm like, this was the price last year.
Yeah.
This isn't the price now. And we ended up waiting and waiting and waiting. We ended up getting very close to that price, but it took like 6 months on the market or something like that.
My philosophy has always been like the market's going to determine where you're going to fall. So like why not get there quicker than having to wait it out? Because like you're narrowing your buyer pool when you're priced high, and now you have to like search through all these buyers to find that one specific buyer that'll maybe even come close to that. Maybe you have to ask for buyer concessions. So I've just always been like, let's get there quicker. Like we're gonna fall where it's gonna fall. Let's just get there quicker.
Yeah, we see that in multifamily. If you see in multifamily, you'll see the listings where it's like perfect for a 1031 buyer, which means translation, we're hoping we can find somebody who's desperate enough to overpay for this
Right.
thing. And it's, I mean, you're totally right. Like if you price it too low, the market will let you know. But if you price it too high, nobody's going to show up. Yeah. And then it's like, you sit on market 6 months. Are you having to pay, if it's owner occupy, like what's it worth? You're having to pay 2 mortgages for 6 months maybe, or just like from a stress standpoint and all that stuff too. You got to account for it.
What I try to tell people is like, you don't have to, Nick, you don't have to accept any offer.
Right.
You could put it on the market for $1 and then you could say no to every person, but it's like getting those eyeballs on it is number one priority.
Exactly.
It's why auctions are so good, right? Like you get at a price point where there's a ton of people interested and now the seller has leverage. Well, that's the same thing we're trying to do here. So I always call it event-based pricing with my sellers. I'm like, hey, you either want to do event-based pricing or like fair, quote unquote, fair market pricing. But nothing's ever fair until a buyer and seller agree on it. So
Are your multifamilies that you're buying now, are you looking for fully occupied? Are you looking for value add, and like what kind of value add opportunities are you specifically looking for?
We'll do both. I mean, to answer your question, we're looking for mostly fully occupied, fairly stabilized. I mean, the reason we like the kind of 10 to say 40 unit space is it's a lot of mom and pop. And Ryan, you mentioned there's benefits to both, right? The huge apartment complexes, there's economies of scale maybe you don't get in the 10 to 40 unit. You can have on-site management. But what we like about this space, and particularly in Oregon right now where we're buying, it's a huge buyer's market, is when you're buying from mom and pop, a lot of them, they're not running it like a business. They haven't. I mean, so the last deal we bought, $2.1 million. Day one, we created $120 in value at a 6 cap just by getting a new insurance quote. Like things like that your institutions are going to be on top of all that. There's way more, we think at least, there's way more low-hanging fruit in these. Like they haven't checked their garbage bill in 10 years. They haven't checked their insurance. They haven't, a huge one, obviously. They haven't instituted RUBS, right? They're just eating, like this one that we just bought, they're eating $30,000 a year in utility costs. And then, of course, that's the expense side. Then on the revenue side, of course, you want to look at the rent roll, right? These are all very similar units, but there's huge disparities between what they're getting in rent. And so that's, I mean, $100 in rent at a 6 cap is $20,000 in value. So you can see how, you got a handful of units that are $300 under. You can add some pretty serious value pretty quickly. So that's what we're looking for mostly. To answer your question though, we will buy more, kind of renovation value add stuff if it's really juicy. We have one going right now that's a 10 unit, and it was just like too good to pass up. But right now, with how much of a buyer's market it is, I mean, I don't see a ton of incentive to buy that riskier stuff and take on bridge debt, and because there is so much you can buy that's borderline stabilized already, and you can just make little tweaks to the operations and hit your numbers on it.
Yeah, I like that outlook on it by mom and pop, because we're kind of in the similar space with the new development stuff that we're doing. Like we're buying like 1 to 4 lot development deals where we're building new houses and selling them, where like the big institutions don't want that, but like the Ryan Homes of the world and the DR Hortons, and they're buying like 100 unit lots, and they don't want the 1 unit, but it's too big. Like the development world is too big for the flipper that has done 10 deals, but it's too small, so you're kind of in that niche, and that's kind of where you're sitting in the multifamily space. So I like that kind of outlook. What are you investing in anything else besides real estate right now? Because I've been heavy, and I texted Chase today. I've been heavy on putting money into equities recently because it's just that market has been just on fire. You're just doing real estate, or are you doing anything else?
I own some stocks. I don't actively invest. I mean, I'll keep a little money on the side to have my fun. I'll buy an individual stock every now and then. I've got I time cost average for a long time, and I'll leave that money in there. I don't pull from it. I don't know. I mean, the way I think for most people, and arguably for me too, I think being diversified in real estate and equities is probably a good idea. Right now, I'm pouring so much money into these deals that we're doing that I'm really not allocating anything to stocks. So, I mean, my net worth is probably, definitely over 90% in real estate, and I'm not actively adding to my equity positions at all. Now, for your average person who's, for example, people who invest in our deals, I always tell people, you should not put your last dime into this. Like, you should be diversified. But for what I'm doing, I'm going pretty heavily into investing in our business.
So one of the strategies that I've been doing is I have a managed account with Merrill Lynch, right? And I put my money in there, and I honestly have been putting probably 80% of my extra money that I'm getting into these accounts, they're CMA accounts, that I get to borrow against. So I'm borrowing against my assets that are growing. So it's kind of like, it is like a little bit of a double leverage thing, but if you do it safely, like at a 50% ratio, you can keep your money in the markets and also use it for real estate deals at the same time.
What rate will they give you on that type
So
of
it's
loan,
usually
on a margin loan like that?
It depends on how much you have in the account.
Yeah.
Because it'll be like, if it's, you have to start with 100 is the minimum, 100,000, like that's to start the account and to be able to borrow against it. And then that'll be like, let's just say prime plus 1. And then once you get to 250,000, it'll be like prime plus a half. And once you get to 500,000, it'll be prime. And then once you get to $1 million, let's just say, it'll be prime minus 1.
How do they make money if they lend you prime minus 1?
Because they're making money on your investments being with Merrill Lynch, right? So they can 10x they can leverage your stuff 10 times. They're Bank of America. So they make their money on advisory fees and using my money as collateral. So it's like they're also leveraging my money. So that's how they make money. But yeah, so like right now I'm borrowing right around prime, which is really good. And like, I just did a private money loan for somebody at 15%, and I'm borrowing that money at like 7. There's a good little delta there.
No, it's a good business.
So that's like one strategy that I've learned recently from, and I have to give it to George, my guy at Merrill Lynch, who has kind of like brought me into this world, because I was like always like, I'm just doing everything in real estate. I'm just putting everything in real estate. Then I started doing some stock trading a couple of years ago, and I was doing it myself on Robinhood, and I made some good money over the course of a couple of years. And then once I gave it all to him, that portfolio just went through the roof. Like it's actively managed. Every day it's traded in and out. We go shorts, we go longs. Like, I'm right now trying to get into the private equity space. They have a capital raise for the SpaceX IPO. So you have to be accredited and all that. But once you get into that space, like the private side of things, your money can 5x in a couple of years, because the employees of those companies are selling their shares in the private market.
Right.
And then you're getting those shares pre-IPO. And like with SpaceX, for example, if he wraps that with XAI and Tesla at some point, the money's going to 10x. And you've seen it like time and time again from private equity to IPO, people have just made like insane amount of money. There's a lot of risk, and it's not liquid anymore. Once you go into that space, it's not liquid until it goes public.
Well, and it's so much more valuable now because companies are taking so much longer to go public because they can raise so much money in the private markets now that often, like by the time SpaceX hits its IPO, I mean, the IPO might go crazy. I don't know, but it should theoretically be pretty much fully priced.
Yeah, because
they've done so many rounds already.
Yep.
It used to be back in the day, I wasn't really around for it, but I've read about it. I mean, companies used to go public way sooner in the game, but it's so much different. You can raise in the private market so much more easily now.
Yeah. This isn't investment advice, but with the private equity space, if you are a accredited investor and you have a good runway, a timeline, because like what you said, like some of these companies will take 4 or 5 years to go public from the time that they even start their initial raise. So if you buy into that, you cannot liquidate it. Like you're bought in until it goes public, then you can sell your shares on the public market. But when you do that, you're buying pre-market at such a discount that it's a real serious, like you can 10x your money in 5 years.
Yeah.
So that's not investment advice again, I should say, because we could lose it all too. But I feel like SpaceX, there's a couple companies that I'm trying to get in on the private side as they're doing raises with these, Merrill Lynch and JP Morgan and all those big, the big people are raising private money. It is something. It's something to consider. You look like you're about to say something.
So Matt, how many properties do you currently have right now? And then how many employees do you currently have?
We are at 65 doors right now and basically have 3 full-time employees. I've got people that do other stuff for me, but really just 3 full-time.
Okay.
And then myself, obviously.
And last week I asked a guy in a similar space as you, but how did you go about creating that team? So like for anybody thinking about getting into commercial base and building that team, like how did you go about building that team strategically? Like who was your first hire, and then how did you hire so on?
Yeah, so I hired my first VA the second I finished that book, Buy Back Your Time. I was like, this is the thing. Like, I got to do this right now. And I encourage people to read that.
What was his role? What or her role?
Her role right off she was doing everything. Like, I was teaching her property management. I was just slowly adding tasks to her plate. I had her doing some social media stuff. But the process was, she started off just like doing social and collecting rents, and then I taught her how to do maintenance and so on and so forth until, today she's still with us 3 years later, and she's like, she's basically like my, I don't know, you'd call her like my chief of staff or COO.
Mine has one of those.
Yeah, she knows how to do everything. And then she referenced me through to my second VA who I hired. He runs our podcast, does some social stuff. And then she referenced me to our third VA who's helping her with the property management now. Because we have enough doors that it's like too much for her to do by herself. So, reference hiring is great because people can fake interviews. People can sell you a bill of goods. But if you get one person you can trust, they're usually going to be able to reference you through. The VA world's a perfect example. People kind of bounce around different jobs. Some companies have 100 VAs, so they're meeting all these people and they know that 90 of them suck, 5 of them are pretty good, these 3 were awesome, let's see if one of these 3 is looking for work right now. And so that's how we've built it, from the property management to the social media side. And then we want to grow it because we want to, ultimately, I don't want to run a huge property management business.
No, you don't.
Like this. So this 19 unit we just bought, I gave that to third party management. I want to ultimately, we're in the process right now of selling off, especially these properties I bought during COVID that have a bunch of equity, but they're like single family or duplex. We want to slowly sell those off, 1031 the money into these bigger deals, give it to third party property management and scale this thing. Because it's, I know you're doing the property management, but it is a full-time business.
Yeah,
and it's you got to build amazing systems. And I just don't want to be in that business long term. It's a really good business because you get recurring income from it. You're running 8% of everybody's rents, but we want to get out of that business. I want to have her doing higher level stuff, almost like transaction coordinator, running these big deals where her name's Angela. Like, Angela, we're buying this 50 unit building, handle all the lender wants 100 documents, go handle that for me. So I want to just keep moving my team up to higher and higher level stuff the longer they're with the company.
Where are your VAs located?
That was my next question too.
They're all Philippines.
Okay.
Same.
Yep.
And what did you go through a company, or how did you go about hiring your VAs? Because we, Nick, do you have VAs? Well, so me and Ryan have had VAs, as he mentioned. He took one of mine over, and we used the company, like you said, that outsources and finds them and then lets you interview however many you need to interview. And it's been really, like, it's a challenge. Ryan's been through a few. He's finally got one that's a killer. I found Juris, who was very similar. Like, we were comparing, like, profile personality charts, and I was like, okay, he has Carl, who is basically like his COO, and I was like, all right, well, Juris is pretty close on personality traits, like, she's gonna be a killer. And she was actually really good. So how did you go about finding your VA? And
First one we hired is Angela, and it was through a company. They were called like VA House or something, and they usually do a contract where they set and they take a cut of her pay or whatever. And she had been with us for like, I don't know, 6 months. And I was just like, Angela, do you want to just come on full time with us? And I kind of hit the jackpot because she was the first one we hired, and she's a freaking superstar. And that was lucky because she's done an incredible job, but she's also introduced me to these other VAs who are, make up our entire team now.
Yeah, mine, I got really lucky because my first VA was Carl, who's still with me almost 3 years now. And I actually, funny enough, got to go to the Philippines and hang out with him.
Oh, no way.
So I ironically just had a friend of mine getting married in the Philippines she lives here, but she's a doctor, and she grew up in the Philippines, so she wanted to have her wedding there. We went there, and then so I flew him and Carl and his wife into the island that we were staying at first, and we stayed at like a resort together. And it just so happens like we're about the same age. He does triathlons, I do triathlons. Like he's done like an Ironman out there. We just like connected, and it was like the coolest experience because for 2 years we would talk on Zooms and talk every day, and like, I mean, he knows about me things that nobody else knows. Like, he's in my email. He does all my emails.
Yeah.
I was telling Paige, my wife, yesterday when we were driving, Sunday when we were driving home from the Super Bowl, and I was typing some weird stuff in ChatGPT, asking it questions, and I'm like, Carl's in my chat too because it's like a pro account. He sees all of these wild ass questions that I'm asking. I'm like, I wonder what he thinks about all this. Like, he's like the only one. Like, and he's listening. He's going to be listening to this tomorrow while he's editing it, and like probably go into my chat and look at all the weird shit that I've looked up in the last like couple of months. But yeah, like having a VA, just to go off of like having a VA and then finding one that works and training them and having them be like a part of the family and part of the team is a superpower because your money goes a lot farther there, and they're hardworking. Like he's the only VA that has like my credit card information. All the other ones don't really have access to payment portals or anything like that. Not that I don't trust them. I just really trust Carl to be, honest with anything. And they know like my bookkeeper would catch anything that would, was fraudulent anyway. But like, that once you find it and you trust it, it is a superpower. Like Eddie, our buddy Eddie, called me the other day. He's like, dude, I am just so bogged down. He's a W-2 job, but he also is an investor and has some stuff. And he's like, I'm just so bogged down. And he's like, I hear you talk about Carl all the time. Like, can you link me up with Cyberbacker to get a VA? He's like, I just need somebody to help me with like general tasks. And I'm like, first, you need to write yourself a scope of work. Like, what exactly do you need them to do? How are they going to do it? Because if you don't have that, they're just going to be burning time. They're just going to be sitting around doing nothing. Like, first, you got to build out the systems for that, and I can't stress that enough. Like, I learned when I started with Carl, like, we were meeting every single day going through the workflows that I was doing, and I was basically, like, building out the training manual live with him. And then now, fast forward to, like, Jocelyn, who's here. She runs my property management company. She has 2 VAs that work for her. Juris is one of them. I made her go in and make videos, and I've done this a couple times in what's that app I use?
Loom.
Mm-hmm. Make videos of every workflow, like how to pay a Baltimore City water bill, how to enter this into QuickBooks, how to use AppFolio, how to do this in AppFolio, how to do this in AppFolio. Everything has its own video so that if, for example, Juris leaves us, we can say, okay, next person, watch this video 10 times before you ask me any questions. And that's my like standard operating procedures. Like if you don't watch this 10 times and you come to me with a question that's answered in this video, I'm going to be angry.
Yeah, that's the skill set you need. Like it is, you don't need to go to a fancy school. You don't need to have whatever certification. You need to be a problem solver, and you need to know how to figure things out. Like with like my staff, they'll ask ChatGPT how to do something. They'll watch a YouTube video on how to do it. Like if you're asking me questions how to do shit all the time, and most of it's I mean, we did the same thing when Angela was starting. Like I told her, Angela, you need to document everything as if we hired someone tomorrow to take some of these tasks off your plate, and they should be able to do them basically day one. And that's exactly what happened. We hired Michelle, and she could basically plug and play into this stuff because it's all documented. That's how you build a business, right? Like everything has to be repeatable. It has to be documented.
Yeah, systems are boring, but they're
So
scalable.
boring.
You know what I mean?
You got to do it though. Yeah,
you got to do it. And you're welcome, because I trained Juris. Every time she had a question, I made her go put it in the spreadsheet, and then before she asked me that question, she had to go research it on ChatGPT. And when she found the answer on ChatGPT, she then had to put the answer into the spreadsheet. So now she had the answer to the question anytime she needed it for a reference. And if she still didn't think it was good enough, then
the other one I'll do is I'll go, I don't know, what do you think we should do?
yeah.
And you start to the more people you work with, you start to realize that you're not so fucking smart. Like you can let other people, like you'll just, I don't know, if you've never hired somebody or hired a good VA, like you will realize the second that you just empower them to start doing stuff, that they're going to be better than you at half of it. And they're going to be less distracted too, because it's their job and they're not running around doing 100 different things.
Carl will correct my mistake, but I think he has a degree in mechanical engineering. And I was a gym teacher. He's clearly smarter than me. Like,
Yeah.
like I could not get a degree in mechanical engineering. I can barely read. So knowing that he is smarter than me in certain things, I do say, like, he'll, for website stuff or whatever, I'm like, I don't know, Carl. Whatever you say.
Yeah,
like,
what do you think?
It's up to you, man.
Yep.
Like you know more than me at this point. And I think that is admitting that you aren't the smartest person and just surrounding yourself with people that are smarter than you and you know that they're smarter than you is its own superpower in itself. Like knowing that, okay, this is the person that I'm trying to be like, so I'm going to put myself in that room. And that's how I found my first investors and how I've learned like lessons, and that's why people now pay me to coach them to learn lessons that before it's a mistake that they made, I've probably made it. Let me help you. I'm not saying that I'm smarter than anybody else, but I've just been there. So like, it is one of those things, like knowing that person is smarter than you and putting them in the place that they belong is bar none one of the most important skill sets in like running a business, in my opinion.
So do you have any other partners, Matt, or is it just you as far like in the syndication process, like with your team? Because you have 3 VAs.
You should say general partners, I guess.
Partners.
So I bring on investors, but I run the deals at this point. It's funny you mentioned, we just offered on a 22 unit today that I am, if we get it, I'm partnering with my buddy on it, who's a big Portland syndicator as well. But yeah, so far I've just done it on my own.
Wow.
So in Portland, we don't like to talk too much about politics here, but it's very liberal there.
Correct.
And so are you guys seeing like laws and stuff change? Like, I'm not a huge fan of the new mayor of New York with his real estate, like becoming, it's racist to own real estate, and we're going to make that a public, they're going to basically take away private ownership of real estate. Are you seeing the same thing happening in Portland, or like signs of it happening in Portland?
It's I could do a whole Mamdani rant, but I'll just put it this way with Mamdani. I don't his idea. They're horrible ideas. They've been tried 100 times throughout history. It's called communism. Anybody that's studied history can look it up. It doesn't work. And I don't think it'll happen in New York. It's the mayor doesn't have as much power as people think they do. As to Oregon, yes, it's very left wing liberal. There were big mistakes that were made a number of years ago. Namely, like the decriminalization of drugs was a total disaster I think that was in 2021. To their credit, they've gotten rid of that. They admitted it was a disaster. Some of the politicians that were, I didn't agree with, I'll put that simply, have been voted out. Another one of the key mistakes was they started allowing camping everywhere, like just tents anywhere in the city. That has changed. So, in fairness, there is a contingent there that's like, landlords are evil, anybody with money is evil, blah, blah, blah. Now, with that said, if you look at historical returns on housing, the markets that have the highest returns are the ones that are the most tenant friendly, right? Because if you go down to Texas or the Sun Belt or whatever, you can go, like it's happening right now. They get overbuilt like crazy because you can just build housing. Now, that's a good thing for society, right? We have a massive affordability problem in America. We need to build more housing. But if you're an investor, that's horrible, right? So the same thing, we as investors, frankly, we play the ball as it lies, right? Is that good that Portland, it's a nightmare to build housing there? No, it's not. But if we're going to invest there, that's good for us. And so there is a massive shortage of supply. And it's kind of a catch-22 because those exact same things like tenant-friendly, not business-friendly, all those things that are downsides to a city like Portland or Seattle or San Francisco, they're also up because those factors are the exact same reason there's a supply shortage. People don't want to build there because it's a pain in the ass. It's hard to deal with. And so, yes, there are, I'll be any LP that I talk to, that's one of the first questions they ask. And I will be very honest about it. Yes, it's a nightmare if you want to evict somebody. But there are, you run property management. You guys have tenants. Like if you screen people properly, somebody that has a 650, 700 credit that wants to own a home someday and get a home loan, they're not gonna, they don't want an eviction on their record. You rent to somebody who has a 500 credit rating. They don't really care if their credit rating drops to 450. So, it's, to be blunt, it's not an easy market to operate in, but some of those, I guess, red flags that some investors would point out are some of the things that also make it attractive to invest in.
That's an interesting take.
Speaking of Seattle, do you have any properties in Seattle?
I don't. I was born in Seattle. I've spent a decent amount of my time up there. I do not own in Seattle though, but it's a similar market. In fact, Seattle's probably even more tenant friendly than Portland is. It's pretty rough.
Yeah.
Yeah, Baltimore's tenant friendly too, but if you have the right systems in place and stuff, evictions are taking, 3 months, probably, from start to finish, 90 days, which isn't like crazy now. During COVID, obviously that changed. That was like a little bit worse. But I just see some of these cities, like Baltimore is just so small, so it's not really like on the map as much. But like, all I see on Instagram is New York mayor, who's like literally pasted all over there, like he's like the new face of the Democratic Party, it seems like. And I'm like, this is not a good path for society. If like, because you said, the mayor doesn't have that much power, sure, but he can't be president because he's not from here. But like, that kind of paves the path for somebody to come in and be the president and run they do have that power.
Yeah, it can, like, it can change what's the term for it? Like, it opens the Overton window where people start to it starts to normalize these ideas, and it stems from inaffordability. Like that's what he ran on. Frankly, I read a really interesting article on this a few weeks ago that said in some ways Trump and Mamdani are at opposite sides of the spectrum, but they sort of ran on the same thing. Like affordability, I'm going to fix it. We're going to tear the system down. And it's, whether they actually have the the ability or whether they're actually going to execute on it is almost irrelevant. They're just telling people what they want to hear. And New York is the most unaffordable place in the world practically. And this guy comes in and says, I'm going to fix it. We're going to do everything for free. And, you know, people like us can hear that and be like, yeah, we've seen this before. These are horrible ideas. But the people who can't afford anything, they feel like he's speaking to them. You know, he was good at social media. He had clear
Very
messaging.
good at social media.
And it worked. I don't agree with a single thing the guy stands for, but he ran a good campaign and he spoke to this problem. And I mean, affordability is it is the theme in America right now, and he spoke to it.
And what else do they have to lose? You know, they already
Yeah.
can't
Right.
afford stuff. So
Well,
it's like,
that's the problem. It's like those people aren't really moving the needle. They don't have employees working for them. They don't need to provide for other people. They're just trying to survive on their own, and that's a tough position to be in. And I think, yeah, he spoke to a lot of people. He was very good at social media, but we'll see if some of this stuff, maybe we'll have a follow-up pod where, you know, if the city doesn't burn down, I'll come up there and we'll do something up there. But like, I think it's an interesting, the word I'm looking for, like test, you know, like a beta almost of what that society will look like if rent control comes into play again. And like, you guys still have rent stabilized apartments there, right?
Yeah, I'm admittedly, despite living there, I'm not an expert on New York real estate because I'm so locked on Oregon. But it's, I think 60% of NYC apartments are market rate, and then there's like 30% is affordable and 10% is rent stabilized or something like that. But the problems are obvious. If you freeze the rents, which is his stated policy, you know, if inflation goes up and your rents can't move with it, you have a failing building, and that trickles down to tenants because you can't. If you're not making any money, you can't fix the units. You can't provide a good place to live, and it's, you know, anybody that is honestly looking at the issues knows this is a horrible idea. But again, it comes back to the same thing: messaging. Landlords are evil. Capitalism sucks. Let's stick it to the man. And it's that's the sad irony of it is it doesn't even help the people who it's supposedly intentioned to help.
Yeah, that we will see. We will see soon how that plays out. But I know we got to get you to a train, so soon probably. I don't know what time you're.
I don't know. I'll find a way back to you. I'm all screwed up. I'm at the wrong station. I don't even know.
Yeah, my bad about that. I texted him. I'm like, we're real close to the train station. I didn't say which train station. He just knew I was in Baltimore somewhere.
There's got to be more than one train.
There's a train like every couple minutes going up to New York, so it's not a big deal. But so one last thing. How much did you pay for your watch, and how much is it worth right now? Because we've talked about watches the last couple podcasts or a couple podcasts ago.
Yeah, so this date if you're on the video, this was the first watch I ever bought. I like to do them for like I do a big deal or hit some sort of landmark or whatever. So I don't really buy a lot of toys, but watches are my one thing. This was...
Don't say toys because I'm arguing it's an investment.
Yeah, let's go with that. This investment on my wrist that tells the time, just like my phone does.
But worse. Worse.
But I have to turn it all the time when it's wrong.
you have to.
No, I think I bought this for. It was like just under 10, I think, and I bought it in 2021, which I think was it? It was. I think I bought it like the height of what? Well, that was the everything bubble. It's probably worth less now, honestly. I have no idea. I'm not selling it, so. But my investment, I would think, has probably not gone up a ton in value since I bought it.
I've done some research, and I was just like, okay, if I bought this watch in 2000, what it would be worth today? And it's like, there is an argument to be made that it is a quote-unquote investment. So that's why I just got into watches like last year. I started doing like digging and convinced my wife to let me buy the first one, and then hopefully she doesn't watch this podcast. She never watched the podcast because this is supposed to be for a special occasion that's happening in a couple of months from now, but I bought it in New York because I got a good deal on it, and I think that it is a good it's a good commodity. Like gold's at an all-time high. I think it's a good diversification if you have the funds to do it. I think it's a fun game, and it's a good conversation starter. And like, I'm pro watch, but
They're cool. It's okay to buy stuff that just makes you happy, right?
Yeah.
I love that mindset.
Yeah.
Everybody, like, if you look around, everybody buys things that they enjoy, right? Like, you either travel, you like your house, you like your car. You can tell what people are into by where their money goes.
Yeah, nobody likes the guy that's like, well, if you had invested that in 30 years, compounding interest, it would be like, I don't know, dude. I just wanted to watch, and it sounded fun, so I bought it.
Yep. Yeah, you gotta reward yourself for the hard work, and if you don't, and you're just like spinning wheels for no reason. And when you get to a certain point and you have the money, like, you need to enjoy it. And I truly believe that. Like, I just started spending money like a couple of years ago. Like, I was just grinding away, building these businesses, buying houses, almost bankrupting myself, buying more houses, almost bankrupting myself, running the businesses. And like, once you start being able to enjoy it, it makes running the business and working more fun.
Totally.
It's just like, okay, now I have another goal, another goalpost. It's moving a little bit now. Like, well, I got it. And it's also like the more toys and stuff you get into, the more doors open up. Like, I started racing cars last year, BMWs. Like, we go to these car events. Now I'm meeting people that are racing Porsches and BMWs. Like, that's a whole market of people that are future potential investors of mine that are racing BMWs. I know they have money. Like, I don't know how they have their money, but I know they have money. So I could be pitching them deals. Like, there's watch clubs, there's car clubs, there's all these country clubs, right? Like, people look at country clubs as a dumb investment, but I will say that I know plenty of people that do all their business at their country club.
Yeah.
And there's one across the street from where I live that's like one of the most exclusive country clubs around here. And it has people in it. Like, I mean, the owner of the Ravens is a member there. And like, there are people there that are super influential. And like, I think if you put yourself in those spaces, you're going to open doors that wouldn't have been opened before.
Totally. You want to be in rooms with people who are further along than you, or preferably smarter than you, or, you know, or where you want to be 5, 10, 15 years from now.
Just don't buy the shit to impress other people. That's all I say, right? Like the Gucci belts and the, like, if you enjoy it, you enjoy it, right? Like, that's your thing. But like, if you're just buying it because you want to impress the next guy that doesn't give a fuck about you, like, you're doing it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, you got to have the right reasons in place, and it's got to be something that truly makes you happy. I think that's the biggest thing. It's like, if you look at your purchases and you're like, well, that was a dumb thing. Like, that was a bad investment. But if you look at something, even if it's depreciating and it made you happy, fuck it, that's a good investment in my opinion.
Yeah,
right?
you go on a trip. There's
no return.
There's literally zero return, and
Right.
and I would argue it's the best money you could ever spend.
100%. Like, our company trip every year, I spend a lot of money and it makes a lot of people happy. We go to Cabo usually, or like Costa Rica or wherever, and it is like the most rejuvenating week, and it brings everybody back, and like, everybody's just like hungry for more. And like, spending that money and doing that stuff and making yourself fun. Like, I mean, Nick travels a ton. And a lot of people make the excuses like, you know, well, I have kids and I can't do this. Like, Nick and I went and interviewed Brandon Turner in Hawaii, and he just brought his daughter with him. And it's like, it's, if you want to do these things, you can do them. And like, that was like my like opening, like, oh, well, he has a kid. All these other people that have kids are like saying, well, I can't do that because I have a kid. It's like, no, you can. You're just choosing not to. Mm-hmm. So I think that's like I give Nick kudos for that, because you didn't let like having a kid slow you down at all.
Yeah, no, not one bit.
So that's all I got. Anything else you guys got for Matt here?
No, I appreciate you coming out.
Yeah.
We'll have to get up to New York and do something up there.
Please, yeah.
I like taking the train up for the day or one night and then coming back.
We'll go see Harry Potter again. You told off air, we talked about this epic Broadway stage with a pool on it or something. I didn't quite get it. I haven't brushed up on my Harry Potter in some years, but it sounds cool.
Either. I had no idea the storyline the entire time, but I was just mesmerized by all the effects and stuff, and I would just turn to my wife like, what's this person? And like, that, I will say, admittedly, I had a great time, and I highly recommend the Harry Potter play that's currently going on in New York City. It was truly amazing. Some of the characters from the movie are in the play that are playing themselves 20 years in the future.
Oh, no way.
Which
That's
is
cool.
really cool. They were the actual actors that were kids at the time and now are fully grown adults, and they're playing themselves as the adults. And it's like the next generation of wizards that are the main characters. It was cool. It was cool. So I have to give shout outs to that. I thought I was going to be nodding off and sleeping the whole time, and I was fully engaged. So shout out to Harry Potter. That's
Should we leave it with that?
We'll
Shout
wrap it right there. Shout out to Harry Potter. All right, guys. Until next time. Thank you, Matt, for coming down.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.